Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Windy City Politics and Law channel. And in today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the 2023 gubernatorial elections. So, 3 states have gubernatorial elections where they elect their governors in this year, 2023. And those states are Kentucky, Mississippi, and Louisiana. Kentucky has incumbent Democratic Governor Andy Beshear, first elected in 2019. He is seeking a second term. Mississippi has incumbent Republican Governor Tate Reeves, first elected in 2019, seeking a second term. And Louisiana has incumbent Governor John Bel Edwards, first elected in 2015. He is term limited and ineligible to seek a third term. So, these are the current parties of the governors of these 3 states. And now I'm going to categorize all of them as toss-ups, and we are going to start by taking a look at Louisiana. So Louisiana is a very Republican state, about Republican plus 19 in the 2020 presidential election. So you look at the Democratic bench, there's not a lot of strong Democratic candidates. There's no statewide other than John Bel Edwards, I believe. And you look at the Democratic candidates and Shawn Wilson, the former Secretary of the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development. So someone who worked with John Bel Edwards. So that's good. If the Democrats want to hold on to this governorship, they're going to need someone who is connected to John Bel Edwards, who has worked with John Bel Edwards and who can run on John Bel Edwards' record. And then the Republican candidates, there was speculation that John Kennedy, the U.S. Senator from Louisiana, could run, but now he has said he is not going to run, and so the main candidate you have is Jeff Landry, who is the Attorney General of Louisiana. And when looking at polling, okay, you also have John Schroeder, the Louisiana State Treasurer, Richard Nelson, he's a state representative, and then you have a few minor candidates as well as Sharon Hewitt, the majority leader of the Louisiana Senate. And then Louisiana uses a jungle primary system in which all the candidates run together on the same ballot, and then the top 2 advance to the runoff. And Jeff Landry has several endorsements, and then Shawn Wilson has several endorsements as well, Shawn Wilson being the Democrat, Jeff Landry being the Republican. So it looks like it's going to end up being Shawn Wilson versus Jeff Landry. And last month I said it was going to be like 57-43 in the runoff. And the thing is, with the polling, there's no polling that doesn't include... Oh, there is polling that does not include John Kennedy. So it looks like you're going to have Billy Nungesser. I apologize if I butchered that name. But he has declined to run. He is the lieutenant governor, and he's running for re-election. So when you take him out, take John Kennedy out, it looks like you have Jeff Landry versus Shawn Wilson in the runoff. Shawn Wilson at 29%, Jeff Landry at 28%. So when you take those two and then go to the hypothetical runoff, you don't have a hypothetical runoff polling data yet for Jeff Landry versus Shawn Wilson. You have John Kennedy versus Shawn Wilson, but there's no data yet, so I can't really take a look at that. But if you look generic Democrat versus generic Republican is at 50%, generic Democrat is at 33%. So I would say it's safe to categorize Louisiana in this situation, in this scenario, as likely Republican. I'm going to leave it in likely Republican until I see polling data surrounding a runoff between Jeff Landry and Shawn Wilson. But I'm thinking it's 57-43. I don't think it's going to be that competitive. And then moving on to Mississippi. And I'm going to take a look here at the political analysis. Inside elections likely are. Sabato's crystal ball likely are. Cook political report likely are. Tate Reeves won by around 5 points in 2019. So now I'm going to take a look at Mississippi. And Brandon Presley, I believe he's the grandson of Elvis Presley. I could be wrong on that. I'm going to go to the Democratic primary and click on his Wikipedia page. I believe he's the grandson of Elvis Presley. Regardless, he has the last name Presley, and he is the Mississippi Public Service Commissioner from the Northern District. And taking a look at that, and taking a look at some of the polling, Tate Reeves was only up by 4 points, then he was down by 4 points, and now he's up by 7 points. So last month I categorized Mississippi as lean Republican. Before that, it was likely Republican, and then it was lean Republican. Now it's probably going to go back to likely Republican. But because Tate Reeves has avoided a primary challenge, there was speculation that Bill Waller Jr., the son of a former governor and a former Chief Justice of the Mississippi Supreme Court, was going to primary Tate Reeves. They faced off in 2019 in the Republican primary, and Tate Reeves ended up winning, and then winning the general election as well. However, Bill Waller Jr. has said he will not run. So Tate Reeves only has token primary challenges. He doesn't really have a serious primary challenge, which is going to benefit him for the general election. And polling data shows him up by 7 points now against Brandon Presley, and it also shows him gaining support and Presley losing support from January to March, and the undecided going up as well. And undecided in a state like Mississippi is going to break for the Republican. And then this is also, from the sample size, registered voters, and polling for registered voters tends to skew Democratic, whereas likely voters tends to skew Republican. Likely voters is more of an actual depiction of what the election results are going to be, whereas registered voters is going to be, I'd say, maybe a point more Democratic than what the actual election results are going to be, just because Democrats have more registered voters nationwide. So now, taking a look at the map here, I'm going to categorize Mississippi as likely Republican. Mississippi is back in the likely Republican column. And now moving on to what I would call the marquee gubernatorial race of 2023, and that is the gubernatorial race in the state of Kentucky. Incumbent Governor Andy Beshear is a Democrat. He first won in 2019 by under a point, defeating incumbent Republican Governor Matt Bevin, and he is the son of former Governor Steve Beshear. And I'm going to take a look at the Wikipedia page for this as well. Andy Beshear has, once again, a token primary challenge, not a serious primary challenge, which is good. And then when you look at his cash on hand, he has $7.4 million campaign cash on hand to spend. Token primary challenge, so he can start spending on the general. And he has also raised almost $650,000 as of January 3rd, 2023. So that's as of the last quarter of 2022, when the midterms were still going on and not a lot of people were thinking about the gubernatorial race in Kentucky. He had raised $650,000 still. And then when you look at the Republican primary, you have, I would say, the two major candidates here are Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General of Kentucky, who actually became Attorney General after Andy Beshear became governor. Andy Beshear was the Attorney General before he became governor. Now Daniel Cameron is the Attorney General. And then Kelly Craft, the former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. And when you look at the endorsements, you have Daniel Cameron has been endorsed by Donald Trump, as well as several right-to-life PACs, whereas Kelly Craft has been endorsed by James Comer, a member of the Kentucky congressional delegation, as well as several state legislators. And then when you look at the fundraising, Daniel Cameron has more cash on hand at $712,000 to Kelly Craft's $230,000. However, when you look at what they've raised, Daniel Cameron has only raised about $260,000, whereas Kelly Craft has raised almost $550,000. And you look, Alan Keck, $205,000 raised, and then Ryan Quarles has $875,000 cash on hand. But when you look at his fundraising numbers, he's only raised $50,000. But what this shows is the distribution of the cash on hand and the money raised shows that this is going to be a competitive primary. And when you look, Daniel Cameron starts out at around 46%, and now he's at 39%. And this is polling conducted as of January. And you see the line, which represents Kelly Craft's polling data, is starting to rise, and it's starting to rise exponentially. And the primary is not until May 16th. So when you take a look at this, I think it's going to be between Daniel Cameron and Kelly Craft. And I think I'm not going to make a prediction as to who is going to come out on top of that primary. I believe it could be Daniel Cameron or Kelly Craft. I'd like to see more polling, more recent polling, before I make a prediction on that. But keep in mind, Kelly Craft is also raising significant amounts of money compared to Daniel Cameron. Now, granted, these are financial disclosures as of the last quarter of 2022, so before the election really came to the forefront of people's minds. And now, looking at the general election polling, the Cook Political Report ranks this as lean Democratic, Inside Elections ranks it as a toss-up, and Sabato's Crystal Ball ranks it as lean Democratic. And when you look at Andy Beshear versus Daniel Cameron, you have Andy Beshear at 49%, Daniel Cameron at 40% with 11% undecided. And Andy Beshear is up by 9%. And once again, this is registered voters, so this is going to skew a bit Democratic. And then Andy Beshear versus Kelly Craft. You have Andy Beshear at 57%, Kelly Craft at 32% with 11% undecided. Andy Beshear versus Mike Harmon. Beshear up by 20, 14% undecided. And then Andy Beshear versus Ryan Quarles. Andy Beshear up 17 with 13% undecided. And now taking a look at this, last month it was lean Democratic. I had the Kentucky gubernatorial election as lean Democratic. And looking at the polling data, I could see this potentially being likely Democratic. I'm going to categorize it as likely Democratic, and here's why. I could see Andy Beshear winning by around 5 points. That's the cutoff for the likely margin of victory. And depending on who the nominee is, he could win by even more. The polling data shows him beating Kelly Craft by 20 points. And Daniel Cameron, I believe that would be a little more competitive because Daniel Cameron is a statewide and also holds the elected office that Andy Beshear had right after Andy Beshear had that. So that would be a very competitive race. But right now, I'm going to throw Kentucky in the low likely category. I think Andy Beshear will win re-election by around 5 points as of right now. So when you look at the final results, Andy Beshear wins re-election in Kentucky, meaning that is a Democratic hold. Tate Reeves wins re-election in Mississippi, meaning that is a Republican hold. And Jeff Landry wins his first term in Louisiana, meaning that is a Republican flip, meaning the Republicans will gain one governorship in the 2023 gubernatorial elections. Thank you for watching the video. As always, please remember to like the video, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Also turn on notifications so you can get notified whenever I post a new video. I hope you guys are enjoying the content, and please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day.